Thank you, Chairman Shabbat, for working to put this important hearing together about the United States-South Korea alliance and the 1-2 agreement together. The South Korean people are allies of the United States. We have a lot of allies, the United States does, but South Korea has a special relationship as an ally. Our two nations, our peoples, have both shed blood together on the same soil in South Korea. That bond makes this relationship unique. South Korea has always been important to us because of its a national security interest in its own right, but our national security interest. And with President Kim in North Korea, or Junior as I like to call him, being a real threat to South Korea and the United States and the rest of the world, it needs to be obvious to us and the South Koreans and the rest of the world that our relationship is strong and will be stronger. One example of the strength of our relationship is our cooperation on civilian nuclear energy in the last 30 years. We have American companies in South Korea and South Korean companies here in the United States. I have a large Korean community in my district in Houston, and it was good to learn finally. I didn't know that the ranking member was also a University of Houston law school graduate. I did actually graduate from there after you did, but it's good to hear that. But anyway, in any event, the agreement that we have has allowed cooperation, and the so-called 1-2-3 agreement expires next March. It turns out a new agreement has been tough to figure out and get done. The sticking point seems to be disagreements over fuel-making technologies such as enrichment and reprocessing. Enrichment and reprocessing capabilities are important because they can be used to make material for nuclear weapons. South Korea wants the new 1-2-3 agreement to include U.S. advance consent for future Korean civilian reprocessing and enrichment activities. South Korea says it needs advance consent to deal with nuclear waste, but it's unclear how dry cask storage would solve this problem. I'm sure our two witnesses will answer that question specifically. It is unclear how, U.S. law states that it is U.S. policy not to give advance consent to enrichment or reprocessing. There are political issues in the region, and international agreements already have been made that have to be considered as well. But time's running out. This past April, the United States and South Korea agreed to a simple 2-year extension of the old agreement. I do support extending this agreement because it will prevent thousands of Americans from losing their jobs, from reactor vendors to equipment suppliers, and there are hundreds of millions of dollars in bilateral nuclear trade between our two nations. But we just can't keep extending agreements indefinitely. It reminds me of the CR that we constantly do on the House floor on our budget. We certainly don't, or I don't want another 2 years to pass and find us right back here, same witnesses, same story, Groundhog Day, trying to make a decision about what to do. Our business community needs certainty. Business, especially in this industry, cannot make financial decisions and other business decisions that may be revoked in 2 years. Congress needs to also know that the laws it passes will be followed by this administration and any administration. I'm looking forward from our witnesses as to what the United States position should be on these negotiations when it comes to advance consent and enrichment. I also want to know the difference between 2 years and a long-range solution and what their ideas are on that. I do hope both sides understand the limitations of the other a long-term deal until it is made. And I also want to do comment about the issue that the ranking member has brought out of the comfort women. That is an issue that is very important, not just for South Korea and Japan, but it's important for us to move forward and get that issue resolved as soon as possible. That is a historical event that cannot be ignored, and we should not ignore it here some many 60 years later. But that's a different issue for a different day, and I yield back the balance of my time.